Greetings, and thank you for joining us for the 40th episode of DC Animation with Spenser and Friends. This is an LMG Podcast Production. Today, I'm joined by a dear cousin.
Hello, everyone.
Can you tell the people who you are?
My name is Jason Harris, Spencer's older cousin. Um, and that's about it. That's about the gist of it. No
Yep,
Mollis Lane. Yeah.
that pretty much covers it. Okay. All right. Jason, could you tell the people about your DC consumption? Comic books, video games, movies, TV shows. What DC do you take in?
Anything, as far as media, film, television, some comic books. I'm not a big video game guy. That's just because my, hand-eye coordination and dexterity is awful. So I'm a loser. But otherwise, the games are very interesting. But yeah, just about anything you can name that's been in film, I've seen television shows. Of course, a lot of the stuff that you see lately on HBO Max, CW. All that stuff. And then, like I said, when I was a kid, I probably read more comic books than I do now. But I'm trying to keep up with what's going on in DC. It's a wonderful universe, the DC world. So.
Agreed. Excellent. Okay. Well, I appreciate you for joining us on this journey through DC animation. Today's film is Superman Red Sun, released February 25th, 2020, and the comic book on which it was based is of the same name. So I'm going to read a synopsis in my own words, and then we're just going to talk about it.
Right.
So we open in the Soviet Union, year of our Lord, 1946. A young boy is running away from some miscreants. A young girl named Svetlana comes to his aid, and the boys flee. The boy shows her his powers, and she tells him that she should use them to help their motherland. In 1955, Soviet Russia puts out a propaganda film of Soviet Superman, and President Eisenhower asks Lex Luthor to come up with an answer for him. The Soviet people and Superman build a dam, which Stalin unveils, and a Russian satellite falls out of orbit and is going to hit Metropolis. Superman comes through to ensure that the satellite does not hurt anyone. He then makes an announcement that Soviet Russia has no problem with U.S. citizens, but instead U.S. government. Lois Lane takes this opportunity to ask for an interview with Superman, which he initially refuses. Superman does meet with Lois and starts talking as shit about the US. So Lois gives him a G-14 classified dossier about what Stalin has really been up to with the gulags. Superman then takes a trip and finds the lead-lined gulags. While down there, Superman finds Svetlana, and she's not doing great. Superman busts everyone out, and Svetlana tells him that she held on just for him because she knew that he was going to save her. She tells Superman that she was locked up simply for knowing him before he became Superman, and she dies in his arms. Superman pulls up on Stalin to ask why he was doing this, and Stalin called it a necessary evil. So Superman kills Stalin and takes over as leader. Lex is working with James Olsen to build a Superman for the US and President Eisenhower instructed, and Superman ends the Korean War with a promise to fix the rest of the world. Lex publicly unveils Superior Man as the answer to the US's Superman problem. Superman and Wonder Woman become allies as Wonder Woman believes in what Superman is trying to do. Superior Man pulls up on Superman and they start throwing hands. And Superman tries to reason with him, but that doesn't work. So Superman has to put the paws on him. Lex overloads Superior Man, causing him to melt, and that causes Lois to be very unhappy with Lex. Moving to 1961, Superman knocks down the Berlin Wall, and Brainiac invades, and he is able to shrink a city. But Superman is able to defeat Brainiac and reprogram him to work for Soviet Russia. Batman disagrees with what Superman is doing, so he starts blowing shit up and causing a ruckus. In 1967, the U.S. comes across Abin Sur's ship and ring, and Hal is tasked with leading a new division of the military. Things are looking pretty successful for Superman, but Themyscira doesn't quite agree with his version of freedom. So, Superman is having dinner with the leader of Korea when he hears Wonder Woman yelling for help. She has been kidnapped by Batman and bound by her lasso of truth. Of course, it's a trap. So Batman uses red sun lamps to take Superman's powers away, and he beats his ass. Through the power of friendship, Wonder Woman is able to break free from the lasso of truth and destroy the power source for the red sun lamps, giving Superman his powers back. Superman threatens to lobotomize Batman, and Batman chooses option B, suicide. Wonder Woman says men ain't shit and leaves. Lex Luthor becomes president, and in year of our Lord 1983, he seems to have brought the US back into the green, which is starting to make people question the validity of Soviet rule. Superman just knew the US would destroy itself, but when that didn't work, Brainiac recommends attacking the US, and Superman refuses. Green Lanterns start moving towards Soviet Russia, and Superman meets them, and the fight begins. Just as the lanterns gain the upper hand, Wonder Woman shows up and tries one more time to convince Superman to stop the violence, but that doesn't work. So she hits the done button and leaves. Superman handles the lanterns and decides, you know what? It is time to pull up on Lex. So at the White House, he finds Lois and the city that Brainiac shrank. Superman said he had been trying to unshrink the city, but Brainiac mentions that the technology has always been there. He just never asked about it. Superman decides to let humanity make its own decisions, but Brainiac really ain't having it. Turns out Brainiac was never reprogrammed. He's been playing Superman all along. Superman and Lex work together, and they are able to defeat Brainiac, but surprise, he installed a self-destruct feature. So Superman flies the ship into outer space and it explodes, which saves the Earth. Lex steps down as president, and Lois spots Superman in disguise in the crowd. And that's the movie.
That is the movie.
So Jason, generally speaking, what do you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of what I expected, a few surprises. And what I mean by that is, Superman Red Sun, is going to be, what if Superman, if he was raised in Soviet Union, and the whole idea of nature versus nurture, right? Which is, I was expecting a bit of propaganda there about, the U.S. being the greatest, and, Superman is what he is because, actually, I was curious if they were going to ultimately resolve that Superman was what he was because he was raised in the U.S. or because he's just this noble spirit, he just can't help but do right. So I thought there was a pretty good mix between the two, nature versus nurture. I'm sure we'll get into some of the other points, which surprised me regarding the nature of men specifically. We can dive into that a little further.
Okay.
But all in all, I thought it was an excellent film. Some great use of even the the cinematography and animation was pretty good. Great use of foreshadowing, things that they did with color and tone in certain scenes. The set design I thought was very interesting. There were some things I questioned, but then they actually kind of came around and explained some things about this film. The start of this film, I believe, begins in 1946. I
Yes.
think, and just that progression. Even there were some things like, wait a minute, that technology's, but they didn't leave any loopholes there. Like, kind of explain some of that too with Lex Luthor. But I thought Lex Luthor. We definitely have to get into the whole Lex Luthor aspect. Very interesting. I appreciated um, the profanity. I mean, not that it wasn't too much or anything like that, but I wouldn't recommend this for children per
Of
se.
course.
Right. This was an adult Superman. Profanity, sexuality, a couple scenes. I thought, well, okay, this is real talk. So, but all in all, I'd give it a. Oh, we'll hold off on the ratings
Yeah,
to
like
the
we'll,
end.
we'll
Yeah,
we'll wait to the end. Like we'll talk
yeah,
through
yeah,
it and we'll
yeah,
see how you feel. So,
yeah.
okay, before we get into the movie itself, how did you feel about the art style? It sounds like you were pretty happy with it.
I was still appreciated. There was a couple scenes. There was one scene in particular, which I'm sure we get into, where Superman rescues Svetlana, which I was like Svetlana. I was like, oh, like Lana Lane,
Yep,
Svetlana.
that's
Okay,
exactly.
okay,
Yep.
that's cute.
Yeah,
Okay,
you caught it.
yeah. It was like, all right, that's cute. All right. That scene was really dark. It was so dark that I like paused and I was like, wait a minute, is my like the color off on my TV? But turns out that there was quite a bit of foreshadowing going on in that scene with the darkness there. I thought that was a nice touch. Um, with one of the characters that was introduced, a young um, anti-hero, I'll say,
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I thought, it's not, I guess it's all about style. I think we've had some of the discussions before about the animation series, that style of animation, the square jaw, I mean, to me, that's like the traditional
Yeah.
Superman
The
look.
big
Yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big shoulders, triangle shapes. Everybody's, yeah.
Yeah.
The women are very, Jessica Rabbit, hourglass shaped. It's kind of like an older style, but it works. It definitely works. It fits the Superman. Um, when I think of Superman in animation, it definitely fits the mold.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it reminded me, it was not far from the like 90s, early 2000s animation style,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. Okay. And how'd you feel about the voice cast?
Um, it's funny about the voice cast because I didn't look at the voice cast prior to watching the movie. So as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, I know who that is. I know who that is. And I was wrong on every, like, I was like, that's not who I thought that was. Like Jason Isaacs being Superman, that's not who I thought that was. The guy who plays Jimmy Olsen, Phil Morris. I
Hmm.
was sure that it was, oh gosh, what is his name? He's a younger actor. He's in some of the Netflix series, not Netflix, it's an Apple TV series. I can't think of his name all of a sudden. Anyway, I know Phil Morris. He's in all kinds of, voice animation roles, all kind of. I just did not hear it for sure. But I thought all in all, they did a good job. Some of the female cast members, I'll be honest, I wasn't as familiar with, so their voices weren't as recognizable. Even once I looked them up, checked them out. But I didn't think anybody in particular was just miscast. Like, oh, that's the wrong voice for that actor or for that role. I thought they did a pretty good job.
Okay. Honestly, I kind of do. I didn't like Diedrich as Lex, and I usually like him in other stuff that he does. Like I like him as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he is Batman. But yeah, like I wasn't feeling him as Lex. Um,
Well,
but
did you think he wasn't villainy enough, or
I guess he didn't have Lex's arrogance,
yeah, he didn't quite have the same panache, but I
but that
thought
may
that
have
may
been
be
in
intentional.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was more intentional. It's like because I mean they did a good job. Like Lex is an ass because he's Lex,
Y-
but there are some things in his life. He is a different Lex Luthor than we have seen before. So.
Yeah. And there's I would say this is one of the least evil Lexes we've seen
Hmm.
because throughout these movies, usually in Elseworld situations, Lex is kind of a good guy. Um,
Yeah.
in some of the movies that we've reviewed in the past, we have Crisis on Two Earths, where up and like Lex is the good guy
Yeah.
in that movie.
Hmm.
In Justice League, Gods and Monsters, Lex is not a bad guy in that movie. Um, in one of the movies in the whole New 52 universe, like while Lex is a terrible guy, he's the one who's able to bring the Justice League back to, handle the big fight whenever they get sent off somewhere. So, Lex isn't always terrible, but
He's not, but and that's probably why I was okay with the choice there because he was still, he was still an asshole. Um, but I still was waiting for the turn, right?
yeah.
When is he going? And I don't know if that some of that's just my preconceived notions of Lex Luthor versus this character who's just slightly not a good guy, but not the worst guy yet. I mean, I didn't find myself rooting for him at any point. Um, but he was just a villain enough, the voice to be okay. What's he gonna do? He was
Okay.
suspect. He was always suspect. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And I think it may be a combination of I'm just used to that voice on other people,
yeah,
and it was a very different Lex than we usually see.
I could see that. And also, yeah, there's something about it. Lex is a very masculine character, right? Very alpha male. There, they probably could have picked a voice actor who had a little more bass in his voice, I'll say. But I think they did it with story, with articulating how manly Lex is, his
Which is,
sexual prowess and intelligence, and
oh
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, it's funny because there are versions of Lex that lean more on the like nerd that's obsessed
Mm-hmm.
than the like masculine, uh, you know, guy who wants to be
Yeah,
like, because there's a version of Lex who's obsessed with Superman because that's what he wants to be, and then there are versions of Lex that are obsessed with Superman because he's like, we need to not be dependent on that. Like
right.
we as humans don't need to be looking at an alien as our savior. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And
and
I tend to like those versions of Lex, but the very egotistical version that we're definitely accustomed to, I think he was still well represented in this movie. Yeah,
okay, because I didn't dislike this version of Lex, but yeah, like I think
not
that I
not your favorite.
yeah, not my favorite I guess not my favorite acting job. Not my favorite performance of
Yeah,
Lex, but okay. So the movie opens with a boy that we know is obviously Superman being chased by some random children. And Svetlana comes through and she's able to make the boys flee. And they open up letting you
uh,
know that this is not for kids because he bitch. I was like, "Oh."
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and Svetlana knocks the shit out of him, little boy.
And he earned it.
Oh yeah, he asked for that ass whooping.
Yeah. And then,
Um,
of course, as the time period dictates, he definitely said, "Oh, if you weren't a girl."
yeah,
And so, yeah, the
game.
boys, yeah, the boys flee. And then, um, she was like, I can't keep saving you. You're gonna have to do something. And he was like, that's not the issue.
Yeah, he's like, she's basically telling him nut up, and he's like, nah,
Like, honey, you have no idea
nah,
what the deal is. Like, would, I've got to make sure that I don't kill those boys.
yeah,
And so she sees, oh, you have powers. Okay. And you should tell the government. Like you should really do
yeah,
this in the name of the country. And so we move to 1955 and they put out, a propaganda film basically saying we have a Superman. And so we are like we're going to be the greatest. Like there's
yeah.
nothing anybody else can do. And Eisenhower calls Lex and he's like, do something because
You
that
call Lex.
like that's a problem and it needs to
Yeah,
be we need to have an answer for that. We can't just let that be. If it's real, it's probably not, but in case it is,
but if it's not a joke, I need you to find out, and I need you to counter. Yeah,
yeah, I need you to have answers for me because that's unacceptable. We have to be number one, period. And so then, they go over the whole building a dam thing, and that's where we find out that Superman is being viewed as almost a god, and Superman is like, no, no, I am just a man like everybody else. And like
Yeah.
that's where we see like Superman's natural tendency.
Yep.
And I think that we're led to believe, oh, Superman, like that's where I think the nature versus nurture conversation
Yeah.
starts.
Exactly. We see the nature and we're like, okay, well, he's still very young and he hasn't been corrupted yet. Will he be?
Yeah,
It's,
there's a lot.
yeah.
There's a lot he don't know.
Yeah.
And, we go in. I mean, anybody who's familiar with history is pretty familiar with Stalin and
Mhm.
at least our education of him,
Right. It is an
our as a
American movie. So, yeah.
yes. And so, we're all skeptical. Like, we're all like, oh, like we know something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Something's going to pop up. This is Stalin, Yeah.
Yeah,
Greatest mass murderer in human history. Yeah. So,
yeah. So yeah, we know that it's not just gonna like he's gonna get some comeuppance because that's how it's gotta happen. And so yeah, Superman is like, it was not me, it was the Soviet people. I'm just one of you. I am no different. I'm just here to help. That whole thing. And that makes sense. That's Superman's whole deal. But yeah, the Russians were like, no, we would not. This would have taken decades without you. So
mhm.
congratulations. I'm glad we got it done. And so we see a Russian satellite falling out of the sky and heading straight toward Metropolis. Now, I my initial thought was, oh, Lex orchestrated that. Because that's some shit Lex would do to somehow make a Russian satellite fall out of the sky and hit Metropolis, thereby, either being able to blame the Russians or to force Superman to show up.
Where?
Because that's yeah, again, that's a very Lex plan.
Well, it was a Lex plan.
Yeah, I didn't know if they had explicitly mentioned that Lex did. Oh wait, Lex mentions it
Yeah.
later.
Well, he says something to Eisenhower. He's on the phone with Eisenhower. He was like, I need carte
Oh,
blanche. I need $120 million and I need to drop a satellite on Metropolis. Like, what? Metropolis? I was like, hey, okay. So, yeah.
okay, because I do remember him saying like, I need this much money, and yeah, like, I need freedom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
And I'm gonna do this other dastardly thing as well. But it's cool.
yeah, because I'm Lex. Don't worry about it. I promise it's gonna be okay.
I got it. Yeah.
And so Superman arrives and he, stops the satellite, or he lets it fall in the water.
Mhm.
And Superman is like, "Hey, my issue is not with y'all. Russia's issue is not with y'all. Y'all are just the regular people who have been brainwashed and who have been fed lies by the United States propaganda and the government." And he gets into all that, and he's like, "Our problem is not with you. Our problem is with your government." And Lois is like, "All right, let's talk about it." And he's initially like, "Hell no, we're not going to talk about it.
Oh, you gonna catch me?
Yeah,
You gonna get me in the interview?
yeah,
No, no,
you going to twist up my
no,
words?
no,
Yeah, nah. I know
no,
how this game goes."
no. I'm
And
good.
so, yeah. And, Lois is just playing the game because that's what she was going to do anyway. She's a reporter, she's a journalist.
She's
And
still
so,
Lois Lane. Yeah.
yeah.
And in the universe, she's Lois Lane, world class reporter. Yep.
And
So
so Superman meets with her and they, have their first interaction, and it's very different than, the Lois and Clark interactions that we're used to.
mhm.
But, they're up high, and it was so funny to me that he was like, "You shouldn't smoke. It's bad for you." And she was like, "This is the same brand my doctor smokes." So, I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But he starts just going in on the US and how awful and terrible it is. And then she's like, "Oh, funny you should say that. I have this classified document that I think you should look at to know what your boss has actually got going on. Because I don't think you're gonna like it based on the way that you're talking. And I would venture to guess that you didn't know about it based on the way that you're talking."
Yeah. You seem like a good guy. I don't think you know about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you should know. Just saying.
Yeah. Just check this out. Yeah.
And so Superman is like, oh, this is awful. And when he shows up, those soldiers, they are shooketh.
Yeah.
They are worried.
Zero attempts to stop him.
That was correct.
Nope, not nope. Go ahead and I actually thought it was funny that he didn't try the doorknob. He just like tore the door down. He was like already pissed. Like,
Yeah, he was so mad.
yeah,
Because that's what I thought is like you could just like walk in, but no,
yeah,
he took the door off.
awesome. Yeah, like okay.
All right. And then he tried to, look to see what was going on. It's like, oh, lead lined. Hmm.
Oh, so this is intentional. Oh, okay. So
Y'all were hiding this from
this from
me.
me specifically. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is made for me. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Like y'all went out of your way to make sure I didn't find this. Okay. That's cool. So yeah, he
okay.
goes down there and he finds the gulags.
Mhm.
And he
Very
sees
dark. Very
very,
dark.
very
Very,
dark.
very dark.
No light down there at all.
Mm-mm.
And then a little boy is like, "Where the fuck you been? You should have been
Uh,
here before now."
Superman can hear a rat piss on cotton from 1,000 miles away. You didn't hear us crying? What?
Yeah,
I don't believe you.
yeah. What the fuck, Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where the fuck you been?
pissed. And he's sitting there with bats behind him, and his parents just dead.
Yeah. Yeah. The bat's flying out. I was like, okay.
Wonder who that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
It's
oh,
different.
okay. But they had to make sure we knew.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, like so there were no questions about who that was. Cool. Glad we talked about it. And then he runs into Svetlana, who is in bad shape.
Yeah.
It's
Very
not
bad.
looking good for her. And this, she's obviously not very old because it
Mhm.
hasn't been very long.
Yeah.
And so, um, Superman recognizes her and, they have their talk. He, breaks everybody out. Everybody sees sunlight for the first time in Lord knows how long. And then she basically is like, I knew you would come and I held on for you.
Yeah. And now
Is
I
it?
can die.
Yeah. And now, yeah, thank you for saving us. They locked me up just because I knew who you were.
I
It's,
knew you before you were you. Yeah,
yeah,
before you were Superman. And it's. I thought it was a bit ironic that she was locked up for knowing him before, and she's the one who said you need to go tell the government about this
yeah,
power because the government's gonna they'll do right by it. Yeah, and she's the one who paid the price for it.
yep. And and we'll talk about like kind of that at the end because yeah, I have a comment about that. Um, and I mean it's written all over the movie. But um, so Superman immediately just goes to Stalin's house and is like, "Hey, what's all this then?" And Stalin basically says, "I tried to shield you from the realities of leading a people. You have no idea what it takes to be a leader and what's necessary to stop dissent. I had to do it, and that's just how it had to be. Like, I don't like it. Matter of fact, I hate that that's the way it had to be, but there was no better. That was the only option. That was the best course of action.
The way it's got to be.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It's just this is what's best for the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what's best for Mother Russia.
Mhm.
And Superman is like, all right, and lasers the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Like Stalin dies. In the It's been a minute since I've read the comic book, so I'm gonna try to remember some of the differences. I feel like in the comic book, Stalin was poisoned. He was not killed by Superman. And so Superman still ends up being the czar or the premier, I think that's what they call him. So yeah, like
Yeah.
Superman still ends up being the leader. But yeah, in this, yeah, kills him and he takes over. And so Back in the US, Lex is trying to, he's working with Jimmy Olsen, who they turned black. And Jimmy Olsen's been black for a while now.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I'm good with that. So yeah,
Yeah. And so, and he goes by James. Black Jimmy is
yeah,
James.
yeah.
Yeah. So, they're working to build a version of the US Superman because we gotta have an answer for that. Like that he's too much.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to respond in case things get ugly.
And well, just step back just a second though. But Lex also mentions that Lois giving him that file, which he gave Lois the file. Superman killing Stalin was his plan. So he in
Yes.
effect assassinated Stalin.
Yes. And Lex is playing chess.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally playing chess. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like Lex is because that is one of the things that he mentions is that there's a reason I gave you that file.
Yeah, I knew this would happen if
Yeah,
I did.
this was actually what I wanted.
Yeah.
So we're moving in the right direction because I needed to and what this does because what Joker's goal is to prove that Batman is no better than anybody else. Like one of the versions of Joker, his goal is to make Batman go too far
Hmm.
and kill somebody because that's Batman's whole code. And Lex kind of did that here. Like Lex
Hmm.
was like, I wanted to prove that while he's saying all of these things, and first we do need to get rid of Stalin. That is absolutely true. But I also want to make a point that he will also fall into the by any means necessary because that's
Yeah,
what happens over there.
yeah.
Like that's their way of doing things. That is communism. And so even he's not above that.
All right.
And so Lex is like, no, that was the plan the whole time.
Yeah. But I mean, it was pretty deep because Superman when he kills Stalin, but he sheds a tear. I mean, in this version of Superman, there's no Martha Kent and Pops Kent. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. So
Jonathan.
Stalin is Jonathan Kent. Stalin is the father figure
Yes,
to him.
and
He even calls him son. Yeah. So.
that is where nurture comes in
Hmm.
because Stalin was, I mean, we don't know how many bodies Stalin has.
Right.
And so Superman, whenever Stalin was like unnecessary evil, I'm sure Superman was like, well, this is too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
This is what has to happen. Yep.
yeah, because you're a problem. Like you actively hid these gulags from me. And so I have no idea what lengths you will go to. And so, yeah, we gotta end that. I can't be led by somebody who's doing this.
Hmm.
And so then Superman goes and ends the Korean War.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to just unify Korea under me. And that's just
Yeah.
what it's going to be. Like, there will be peace.
Yeah.
And so, period. That's what we're doing. And I'm only starting here. We don't worry. Everybody's going to get some peace. Don't worry about it. I got enough peace for everyone. So, Lex, it's time to unveil the answer. And Lex unveils Superior Man. And he's going to be the answer to the whole Superman problem. Now, when I saw him, he looked like Ultraman from a different movie, from Crisis on Two Earths. So the first time I watched this, I was like, oh, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And so we then see Superman and Wonder Woman getting very friendly. And what I do remember in the comic book, I was very much under the impression that Wonder Woman was deeply in love with Superman. Um, in this, they made a pivot,
Yeah. I was surprised at the pivot myself. Yeah.
and because that's usually not a thing that happens. Like, even though Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman is usually either celibate or straight.
Right. Yeah, even on recently, Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever, Superman and Wonder Woman are a thing after Lois's, in a reality.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
in movies early, we've seen Wonder Woman with Steve Trevor.
yeah,
Earlier in this series of movies, Superman and Wonder Woman do get together.
yeah.
In Justice League War, we watch them see each other for the first time. They're like, "Oh,
Oh yeah, you get it. Yeah,
yeah, oh, okay." In uh, in Flashpoint, she and Aquaman have a thing,
yeah.
and so yeah, like
There's even some
she's
flirting with Batman in some of the Justice League movies. Yeah,
yeah. There are a lot of people. Yeah, they want so
she's hetero. Yeah. So
usually.
yeah,
And so in this, whenever she's like, I'm like, he makes a move, like he tries to go in for it, and she's like, whoa,
oh, hold on, homeboy. Yeah,
what are you doing? It's like, oh, I thought this is what you wanted.
I thought this not what I'm supposed to do.
It's not what you want.
But
And she was basically like, no, I'm Lebanese.
yeah, I live on an island full of women
I'm gonna let you
by
work that out for
design.
yourself.
By design, do the
Yeah.
math. Yeah.
And he was like, oh, thank God.
I love that she was like, sure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
All
Oh, okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
didn't? Oh, you relieved? All right.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so he's basically like, yeah, sex is a waste of time and I don't need
Yeah,
it.
it gets in the way of the ultimate goal, which is world peace and, you know, love for Mother Russia. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much. And it was like, alrighty.
Sex is a distraction. I
Yeah.
think she said sex is a distraction. And she says a healthy one sometimes, or
And like
yeah.
sometimes that might be yeah, that might be what you
Yeah,
need.
she was like, I didn't say I don't like sex. I just don't want it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but okay. Yeah, like you I'm glad we agree on that. So let's just be friends
Yeah.
and call it. So I was like, okay, so they so America just had to make Russian Superman just not interested in, I guess, traditional values.
Well, I
Or
guess it's like, okay, if there are any women in the DC universe that you put Superman with, Lois Lane and Wonder Woman, right?
yep,
So if you're not going to go to Wonder Woman, Lois Lane is taken. I mean, because we can't. Lois
can't
Lane
do.
is married
Yeah, there's no way to make that work.
Luther. Like so. Eh,
So
yeah,
if it can't be one of those two, no one. Like he has zero
then
interest in it
he's got to be
whatsoever.
celibate, and we'll never speak of it again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think that, also in the comic book, Stalin has, illegitimate children. And one of those illegitimate children actually has a big part in this because he has some jealousy that he feels because Stalin is treating Superman like his son and, basically ignoring him. And matter of fact, in a previous movie, a Wonder Woman movie, we see that same thing. Wonder Woman shows up at a lady's house, and then her daughter gets super jealous because Wonder Woman's getting all of the attention. And anyway, um, yeah, in the comic book, I think it was a similar situation, but Wonder Woman wanted Superman, and he just wasn't interested. And then eventually, she falls out of love, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this before. It's a common thing in these Superman movies. The Superman is he's pious. He's saving himself for whatever. Even though in several movies, Superman he's willing to go as far as take his powers away so he can have sex. But
yeah,
so,
yeah,
but with Wonder Woman, that's the thing. It's like with Wonder Woman, I can keep my powers and I can still do the nasty thing, and I don't have to worry about killing somebody, in the act. But
yeah, in this, just not
that
interested.
option, that option's off the table. So
Okay. And so, after they, decide, yes, let's just be friends. We're good. We don't need to do all that extra. Superior Man pulls up and he's like, I am truth, I am justice, I am the American way. And they start fighting. And Superman just really is like, hey, let's not do this. Like, you are just a puppet. They are using you. You don't really have to do this. And he's like, nope, I am Superior Man.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna
so,
do this. We're gonna do this right here. Yeah,
and what I loved is that Superman saw the collateral damage that was happening, and he was like, I'm going to
yeah.
take this elsewhere.
He's still Clark Kent at that point. I mean, you know what I mean. Person
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm trying to keep people from getting hurt. There's people who are busted up and dead. Let's get out of here. You're destroying my country. You know, with this
yes.
fight, this war.
And so, yeah, he's able to move it to a different place. And then he's like, all right, if you're not going to listen, I'm going to have to put these hands on you. And so, he starts, just ruining his day. And then Lex is like, all right, pump him with more juice. And that's when it becomes very clear that that's Bizarro.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, that's he metamorphoses into this hideous Superman. Like, oh, that's Bizarro. He's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
he can't speak anymore. Yeah, me, not super, me feeling weird, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now, another thing that I remember from the comic book was whenever he did fight this uh other Superman, I think that in the comic book, England started getting nervous, and so they launched a nuke. And I think that the other Superman sacrificed himself so that the nuke wouldn't do any damage or like destroy anything, and so that's how he died. But yeah, in this, he just kind of got overloaded. And that's the one thing in this movie that we see where it's like, all right, don't forget, Lex is a piece of shit.
yeah, exactly. And I was going back to that. It was like, okay, when is Lois gonna leave this dude? He is a jackass. He created this being and killed him and had zero remorse about it.
Zero.
Like,
And
yeah, what's the
and
problem?
and that's why, yeah, like Lois was like, you knowingly built this thing to kill it. And Lex was like, it wasn't a person. Like it was an it, not a he.
Yeah, it's it. I made it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I made it to test Superman. Like this was a
yeah.
part of the plan.
He was never gonna win.
Yeah, like he had a 12% chance of winning. Like that wasn't what we were trying to do. I was trying to, I was trying to test Superman's nerve, test his resolve, see if I could put fear in his heart. See,
And you saw he was scared for a second there. You saw it.
yeah, you saw. So I did
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted to do. Like that. This was
Mission
again all a part of the plan.
mission accomplished.
And yeah, Lois is like, that's really shitty, and walks out. Because earlier in the movie, we see that Lois, I don't know if I think this was earlier in the movie, but yeah, like Lois forgot their anniversary because he's been busy doing stuff. And in the comic book, I feel like there's more strain on, like it's more apparent that their marriage is strained.
Yeah, I think maybe they just didn't have enough time to go there in this film. But yeah, they
I
definitely talk about it. You know, why are you still with him? Which goes back to my the commentary about he's the sex is great. You know, his sexual prowess. You know, he's
yeah,
super strong. He's going to change the world. But I don't. It almost changed my opinion of Lois Lane though. Like,
yeah. I'm not mad at that because,
yeah,
but honestly, again, this was a less terrible version of Lex because we see Lex do much worse things. And
yeah.
so this was the moment for me that was like, don't forget Lex is terrible, but not terrible.
He hasn't he hasn't gone so far that he can't be redeemed yet, right?
Yeah. Like
Yet,
I guess he hasn't hurt anybody that we care about. Um
right?
he hasn't done anything like super scummy.
No genocide, no,
No like
every
gross capitalism.
yeah.
Yeah, like no like heavy exploitation.
Mhm.
Or yeah. So like Lex, yeah,
Still, and
he's
still very in the name of America. Still,
yeah.
we
And
haven't yet seen a power hungry Lex.
mhm.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're again at the end, we're gonna get into that. So, we then go to 1961, and Superman knocks down the Berlin Wall, and that was just
Yeah.
yeah. They're like, all right, he said, yeah, Berlin, we're not doing that.
But I think I was like, this was hilarious to me. I thought it was funny. He didn't like he knocked it down like when they were finishing it. Like he waited till they were done. Like, all
Yep.
right, last brick. And he's like, the hell it is.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he didn't halt construct. Yeah, he waited until they were like, all right, guys,
He
we
didn't
can
try to
finally.
politic this beforehand. He didn't like tear it down in a nice way and like the wall is gone. It was just rubble. It's like now it's just a hazard.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
all right.
there's gonna be debris and everything. Just yeah.
So kids are gonna get tetanus. I
Yes,
mean,
that's exactly what's gonna happen. Uh,
what's going on, dude?
so yeah, I also thought it was funny that yeah, he's just like, all right, and we're done here. So
Superman out.
yeah, and so we see Brainiac invade, and honestly, I was surprised. Like the first time I saw this, I was surprised that Brainiac successfully shrunk a city. Like I didn't think that he was gonna do it. I thought
Mm-hmm.
Superman was going to stop him because what we have seen from Superman in this movie, here and later, is that Superman is simply too much. Like nobody can hang with him. And so I was like, oh, Brainiac did it. Oh, the
Yeah,
city. Oh,
yeah, it
all
was
right.
about to be out. Like,
Yeah, like yeah, who's leaving? And it's like, oh, the city got bottled. Okay. I guess I guess that's an L in the Superman column. And then of
yeah,
course Superman, breaks the shield and defeats Brainiac, and then he's like, "Oh, Brainiac, you belong to me now."
yeah.
And so, uh, we see Batman show up, and he's got some problems with the establishment.
He is a problem.
Yeah, and this is not the rich billionaire Batman that we're used to seeing. This Batman he's from the slums.
Yeah.
He's one of the poors.
Well, Batman, and depends on which version of Batman you look at, right? Batman not using guns and killing. This Batman was like, you got 10 minutes. Psych, 10 seconds. I'm blowing up little kids
Yeah,
every day.
everybody. He's 100% just anarchist. Like
Yeah.
that's what he's doing. And of course, because he's Russian Batman, he has no code.
Which I thought was a bit of uh, I'll say US propaganda. I mean, the whole this is what would happen if Superman wasn't in the US, but also this is what Batman would be if he didn't grow up in the US. Look how terrible he would be. He's bad. He's really bad because he's
Hmm.
Russian. The Russian version of Batman is the worst. He's the devil.
The absolute worst. Exactly. And that is exactly that. Like that's how I felt. I was like, oh, okay. Because he's Russian, he's fine just killing folks.
Yeah.
And like he's not quite the Joker, but a lot closer to the Joker in that he's just
Hmm.
doing shit because he disagrees
Yeah.
with the establishment. And so we go back to the US and they call in Hal Jordan. Now, did you know it was Hal Jordan immediately, or did it take
I
Sue?
I I suspected. Well, okay, I'll say this. The initial scene where they show the guy in the Air Force, I'm like, is it? I was like, maybe not. But then once you see okay, clearly this is Hal Jordan. Yeah, lost you.
Oh, I bet. Can
Yeah,
you hear me now?
yeah.
Okay. In the comic book, I remember Hal being a prisoner of war. Um, and of course that didn't happen in this one. And I don't remember all of the details, but I feel like he was like captured and he had to like use his willpower to escape or something.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of exposition here about Hal Jordan and the the whole idea of why Hal Jordan is Hal, why he's such the perfect Lantern, right?
Yeah.
It just he was essentially a jag in this, just a guy. You
Yeah.
know, we don't have any backstory. Like, what? Why this guy? I mean, he
Yeah.
even says it like, "Why did you pick me?" And they
Yeah.
just say, "We just want you to run." But
Yeah.
that doesn't answer the question, why?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
we have a new branch of the military. We want you to run it. Yeah, but why though?
yeah. But why? Why
But
this guy? Yeah,
yeah. And because it's Hal Jordan. That's why.
yeah. It's like we got to put you in the movie, so we got
Yeah.
to get these characters in here into this universe and show you what life would have been like if Superman went to Russia, like how it affects all these other, you
Yeah.
know,
Because
stuff.
since it's an else world, so we got to
Yeah,
include
yeah,
other folk as
yeah.
much as we can. And so, yeah, I will say in the comic book, I think that the incorporation of Hal made more sense because he, again, he was a prisoner of war and he had to like use willpower to get out. And so that's why they were like, oh, yeah, he's absolutely the guy that we need when it comes to willpower. But yeah, in this, they were just like, yeah,
And even
Hal.
yeah, I think if they wanted to go down that road, they would have had to done it a little bit different. They brought in Hal early on in the project, like they hadn't figured out that this is the lanterns require willpower. They would have had to, like, we've been working on this project, and Hal is the guy we identified. Versus we're gonna cut this lantern ring off his hand right here, which was also very weird, by the
Yeah.
way. Um,
Yeah, they're like we know nothing about it, but we just predict that that is kind of where the power comes from.
well, they had already Lex wasn't new to the project; he knew about it already. But then
Yep.
they cut the finger off. It was like it was. I thought it was that I didn't like. I thought it was just another uh
Lex is
opportunity to
terrible.
show how terrible Lex is. Exactly. Like look at the depths, the depravity Lex will go to.
Yeah.
Just defiling a corpse. Yeah.
And I guess the way that the Green Lantern rings work in this universe is different than any other place because normally when a lantern dies, the ring either
Refuses.
finds yeah, it
Yeah.
either finds a new host or goes back to Oa. Like it just flies off of the person wearing it. But that didn't happen and they were able to replicate it.
Right. Which confused me initially. I mean, I get the idea. I actually like that part of the idea that Lex Luthor is so smart that he was able to figure out this lantern power and able to duplicate it and give this power to multiple people. But I mean, honestly, when I saw the ring was still on his finger, I thought, is he not dead? Um,
I wondered that same thing. But
yeah,
because yeah, he was lying there like he was dead, but
right,
because I know what lantern rings do, I was like,
exactly.
oh, so he's but
So he must be near death, and the way I anticipated that scene going was okay. He's near death because I see him laying there and the ring is still on. Hal Jordan enters the room, and there's going to be some dialogue back and forth. He's going to die, and the ring's going to go to Hal, and whatever. But that didn't happen.
because
So
I think that that's usually what happened is Abin Sur is like near death, and if Hal is the one who finds him,
right,
then they have, a discussion.
I think there was an opportunity missed there. I think that would have been um, a better scene if he would have been near death, and it just would have fit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still could have done what you did with Lex, reverse engineering, the Lennon power. You could still go through all that. But yeah, a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. But so we see that Wonder Woman, and not even Wonder Woman, but really Hippolyta is like, um, I don't really like the way Superman is doing things. I don't really agree with him because, but Hippolyta, but she's made it very clear, like men are trash. I don't like anything that they do, and so Wonder Woman is like, I still believe in you, but I just want you to know that Themyscira has doubts,
Yeah,
but I still think, everything's cool. I still believe in your vision of the future. And I still think that you have what it takes to get there peacefully and
yeah,
all that. And so Superman is having dinner with who I believe is the leader of Korea, and they're just eating, and he's like, "Why are you so quiet? What's the deal?
What's the problem, Doc?
What's the problem?"
Why you so tight? What's up?
Yeah, like and be honest. And he's like, you're terrifying. Like you could wipe us off the earth at any moment, and
Yeah,
there's nothing we could do.
it was a very Homelander moment.
Yes, it was. That's that. I thought the same thing. Was like, yeah, yeah, that's the case.
Mhm.
And so then Wonder Woman is heard, yelling for help, and is like, "Oh, you have 10 seconds to get to me, or it's gonna be over." And he's like, "Oh, you made it an 8. I expected 6.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'll be better next time."
yeah. 'Cause I'm still not impressed.
Yeah. And so how Batman was able to kidnap and bind Wonder Woman, I will never understand.
It's still a mystery, right?
That's probably why they never showed it, because that's not a thing that's going to happen. Like, I understand that Batman is very skilled and very capable, but this is a poor Batman, which means that he didn't go to the Alps and learn all of the, stuff from the monks. He didn't do any, like tours to learn. Like there are a lot of skills he doesn't have the means to know
He learned on the street.
on the streets.
Yeah,
And Wonder Woman is a problem. Like, no matter how you slice it, Wonder Woman's too much. And so the fact that he was even able to get the lasso for, like, I have questions. And I guess that's why we didn't see it.
yeah. I had questions to the point where, as I'm watching the scene, I'm wondering: has Wonder Woman turned, and is she actually in league with Batman? Like, this is too easy.
Yeah.
That's where I was before. We finished the scene. I was thinking, there's no way she was captured by Batman. This is too easy. Maybe something else is up here, but yeah, wasn't the case.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, okay. I'm gonna have to suspend my disbelief because no, I have questions and they're not gonna get answered.
No.
And so, Batman, says, "Hey, I have a bomb inside of me." And then he's like, and also, I have a friend in America who helped me figure some things out.
Yeah, he just straight up told us that Lex is basically funding this takeover of the government, this overthrow of the government. Yeah.
hmm And in the comic book, it was that jealous son from Stalin that I think that not only is he the one who betrayed Superman and gave Batman this information, but I think he may have also been the one who killed Batman's parents, causing Batman to happen. I don't
Mm.
know if that's like I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but I feel like that's what happened. But I do know that he's like, no, your brother is the one who gave you up, just so you know. And so Batman turns on the red sun lamps, and so Superman doesn't have powers anymore, and it's not good for him.
I loved, how arrogant he was. Like, oh, he was like in the middle of the sentence, like, oh, maybe I'll get a sunburn in 1,000 years.
Yeah, like he's talking that shit, but he didn't know any better.
Well, yeah, but what was hilarious to me is, was like he just barely gets the sentence out, and like Batman is running toward him. Just,
Yeah,
yeah,
like yeah, as soon as the lights turn on,
yeah,
yeah, Batman was like, "Go time."
I'm about that business.
Yeah, and so yeah, Batman beat his ass. Um, and I mean, yeah, this is one of usually another thing that's interesting about Elseworld stories is generally speaking, I think the main continuity is one of the only places we really see green kryptonite used, but I feel like Elseworld stories, they really utilize the red sun
Mhm.
weakness. Because again, in an earlier movie, Justice League Gods and Monsters, like that's what they use to fight him is like red sun guns. And so it feels like with otherworld and elseworld stories, they really lean on the red sun rather than the green kryptonite to deal with any Superman issues.
Yep.
And so, and I guess the reason for that is because whenever you have green kryptonite, he doesn't have powers, but also it's poisonous to him. But with red sun, he's still able to, move freely and do stuff.
Yeah.
He
He's
just
just
doesn't.
regular dude. Yeah.
Yeah, like he either doesn't have powers or it just hurts him. But yeah, kryptonite, like he's useless if there's kryptonite around. And so I guess that's why they use red sun in this situation. So, um, he's getting his ass beat, and then he gets put in a cellar, and Batman is like, and you will just live the rest of your life in here. And then he makes the mistake of talking to Wonder Woman. And through the power of friendship, she breaks the lasso of truth
Hmm.
and ages
Yeah. And
immediately.
turns herself wretched. It was like, what? I wanted them to explain that some more because it was
So,
like she had a stroke. Because like one side was,
yeah, because whenever we see her older later, she's in better shape.
yeah,
But
it's like
she's still,
she's young again, but with gray hair now, or
yeah.
what's going on? Yeah.
And so in the comic book, I feel like she has, like she's an Amazon, but she also has some extra shit from the gods.
Yeah.
Whenever she broke the lasso of truth, the gods got pissed off, and so they took away a lot of her extra. So her, longevity and youth and all of I don't know if all of her powers, but some of her power, like some the more specifically Wonder Woman things that other Amazons can't do, I think they stripped away from her because she broke the lasso of truth. Um, I thought that it was like, oh, the work it took to break the lasso of truth just aged her in that way. Again, another Elseworld story. In Crisis on Two Earths, Johnny Quick is running on the treadmill to like keep a portal open.
Yeah.
And he was only on the treadmill for a few minutes, but whenever he gets off the treadmill, he's an old man. So being on the treadmill aged him quickly. And so I thought it was one of those situations where like the strain that came from doing that just siphoned life off of her.
Yeah. It was a bit confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not really sure. It was not explained at all, really, in this. But I think that when I saw it happen, I just took it to mean like, oh, that was such a strenuous undertaking that it aged her in that way.
But I think what was confusing to me though, like I said, was it was more than just aging. I mean, it's like one side of her face was almost like she'd had a stroke. It almost looked like it was some kind of spell had been broken. And you know, you see these movies where they're young and then all right, the spell is broken and they
They
go to the
shrivel.
age that they should have been at this point. It was weird because she just looked she was more than old. She was decrepit, but she still had super strength. So I
Yes.
was well,
And again, I think in the comic book, I feel like I remember them explaining it as the gods were pissed at her, and so they took some of her power, like they stripped a lot of powers off of her.
yeah, so she's, Wonder Woman she's immortal, right? But
Yeah,
I guess now she's not, and she's going to age. Superman is not immortal. He
correct.
doesn't age the same way everybody else does, but he's not immortal.
Hmm.
Wonder Woman is immortal, but I guess now she's not in this elsewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm guessing. Yeah, like I think that yeah, her immortality was stripped from her for breaking the lasso of truth because that was one of the gifts bestowed to her from the gods, and they found it disrespectful that
I,
she
I
would
can
destroy it.
I can buy that. I wish they would have made that a plot point in for the movie. So
Because that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, why didn't y'all use that to really bring home the issue that she has with Superman?
mhm.
Because the way I saw it, or the way I thought it was going to happen, was okay, she was there for Superman whenever he needed her. And we'll see that like that came to me later in the movie whenever she showed up again during the lantern fight. But she shows up for Superman, and I'm wondering if Wonder Woman feels like, oh, you didn't show up for me when I needed you, and that's why, I'm done. But she, I guess, looks at it as, men ain't shit because whenever he she destroys the sunlights, he's free, and he basically says, just gonna give you a little bit of brain surgery. I give you a nice job in the laundry room. You're gonna be fine. And he's like, well, fuck that.
Yeah, I'll die first.
Yeah.
Which
And
I'm going to label him IED Batman because yeah,
yeah, makes sense.
yeah.
Um,
It's like why in your chest though? But all right.
to make sure, like, you can't take it out, you can't get me away from it.
Well, but it was interesting. It's like the whole. He's like, he scanned him. He's like, "Did you look at my chest?" And Superman's like, "Yeah, what's that gonna do?" And it's like, what is it gonna do? It's like it's gonna kill me. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get your clothes dirty.
Yeah. So yeah, Wonder Woman is like, yeah, men ain't shit. Mom was right.
Yeah,
I can't stand none of y'all, and
yeah.
left.
I'm done with these men. He's no better. You're no better than him. You're all men. Is yeah.
That was the moral of the story.
Yeah.
And so then we see later, Lex becomes president, and by this point he's completely bald because earlier in the movie, like, he started,
Oh yeah,
young.
I appreciate the progression. It's like he's
Yeah,
he's balding, and then he's got the George Jefferson, and then finally he's like, yeah, all right, enough with this.
yeah. And so yeah, because that's what let me know that we see this movie take place over a long time.
Yeah,
Because I guess since Superman looks exactly the same, it can be hard to realize, like, oh, it's almost been 40 years
yeah,
that we've seen across this movie. And so uh we see that Lex becomes president, and Lex has brought the US out of this depression. Like, he's brought them to a new level of prosperity. He's like, the US is the US again.
yeah,
And it's making, the Soviets look like fools because the US at this point, I think they said that the US is the only country that's not a part of the Warsaw Pact,
hmm
which is, as far as I understand, like the UN, but like for
yeah,
communism.
yeah,
And so Superman has almost taken over the planet, but the US is just stubborn. And Superman says, like, the US was supposed to destroy itself. It was supposed to dig itself into a hole. And then we were supposed to be there to pick up the pieces and, make it very clear that their way doesn't work and that they can't do. Like, he was like, yeah, they will fail. And then we will be there to take over when they do. Bing, bang, boom, problem solved. It's going to happen. We just have to give it some time. And yeah, he did not, he underestimated Lex Luthor's resolve, I
yeah.
guess.
Lex Luthor brought back the economy. Brought back prosperity. The U.S. is on the rise, and quite frankly, the stability of the U.S. economy brought instability to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
So yeah.
because stuff like that is what makes people be like, oh, maybe your way doesn't work, or
Wait,
maybe,
so this
because,
capitalism thing is working?
yeah, like
Or
that. Like, he ended homelessness, and he, everybody's, bellies are full and they don't have to be lobotomized in order to.
and yeah, and he did it in a different way. Brainiac is like, we're putting stuff in the water, we're lobotomizing people, we're it's kind
We're
of like
forcing compliance.
yeah, but it's in a very forced manner. It's not free will. But you don't have free will. So
Yes. And so Brainiac is like, hey, I have an idea. Hear me out. I'm just saying, it's coming from another place. Maybe we should invade. Because not invading hasn't worked. So maybe if we try invading, maybe that'll work.
so Superman, this ain't really going the way you thought it would with them self-destructing. I mean, so maybe we just go over there and take them out.
We just go, yeah, we just go over there and handle it. Like because what you haven't done is pulled up on Lex. You haven't seen him face to face. You haven't just rolled up to his crib. That's what you haven't done. And I kind of noticed that not doing that hasn't worked. So perhaps we try it. Just spitballing here.
Just check it out.
See how he feels if he sees you in person. If he lays eyes on you.
Maybe you convince him, face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Lex could use a little surgery.
Yeah.
Just a little mild,
Put one of the things in his head. It's all good.
Yeah, because if you just kill him, that's not a good look. That's going to bring instability. But if we
if we show our power and our resolve, our way is the way.
He may acquiesce. I only predict 6.5 million deaths. Just a small.
That's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Just a tight little 6.5. This
6.5. Where did it go? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the greater good.
Yeah.
And Superman is like, absolutely not, because of course.
I'm still Superman. I'm still, Kal-El.
Yeah, like I would never, Brainiac.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take it off the table, but
I'm
not gonna do that. I'd never do that.
No, this is gonna go my way. Yeah.
Yeah. We still got time.
Yeah.
We still got time.
I'm good.
And so they notice that there's some things moving toward Russia, and it's like, oh, those are not planes, those are not missiles.
This motherfucker just shoot some missiles at some green. Oh wait, these ain't green missiles.
And so we see that it's the Green Lanterns, and I love that they Jon Stewart voiced Jon Stewart. Like Phil Lamar came back to voice Jon Stewart, because I immediately was like, that's Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
I was like, good. I love that. Glad we did that. And so Superman meets them in the water and is like, oh, we doing this? All right. And again, this is just another demonstration. Well, not yet, because the Lanterns are actually they're like willpower. And so they get him in a box, and it's not looking good for him.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they about to crush him in this box. It's like, the box is getting tighter, and put a box around it, make it tighter. Superman he's hunched over. It's not looking good.
Yeah. And so Wonder Woman shows up, and whenever he says to her, I knew you would come to my aid, or something to that effect, that's when I was like, oh, maybe that's what she's pissed about, was Superman's selfishness.
Yeah.
To not help her. I don't know. But she was basically and she put some makeup on or something, because she's looking a lot better.
Yeah, she's over the stroke. She's been to rehab, recovery. The hair is gray, but she still looks young. So
yeah, that's the thing. She's back to herself. She's just silver now.
Now she looks like Storm. So, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so she just the chemo worked or whatever. I don't know.
Botox. I don't know. Something happened. Yeah.
Something happened. Oh, you know what? She probably had a distraction. Revitalized her a little bit.
I went back home, and me and we got it going. Yeah. So I'm feeling good now. Got a little release.
Yeah, had a facial, all that.
Yeah, all good.
And so she's like, "Hey, can we do this peacefully? I urge you."
Why are you boys fighting again?
Yeah.
Always the men.
Yeah, fucking men. We don't need the violence. Please be peaceful, be diplomatic. Let's be better. And
I love this planet. You guys are gonna fuck it up,
And he basically does the Diana, you just don't understand. There's no other way. And that's when it's like, oh, Stalin's in there.
Yeah.
That's nurture. That's
he's like, sorry, but I got to do this.
Yeah.
And
this is the only way.
Talks back to punch her ass. I was like,
and that's when whenever she just caught it, I was like, "Ooh, she still got it.
Ooh, yeah.
She's still the
She's
baddest."
she's there. She's she ain't lost a step. She's matter of fact, she might be stronger than before. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's what I thought. I thought it was like a Thor situation. Because like whenever Thor, like whenever you become an old man, like you get that old man strength.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, she one of those like she with time she only becomes more of a problem.
He's like, I'm gonna have to go ahead and just slap you around a little bit. And she's
Because
like,
that's the there was no that was the thing. I was like, why would you punch her? Like she asked you to stop fighting, and so you were like, I'm gonna
he's
fight
like,
you now.
I got to do this. I got to put you in your place. Which to me, I was like, okay, now we have seen the full 180. Like all of the Clark Kent, whatever the nurture, the nature rather. It's nurture. We've proved that this is not nature. It is nurture, right? It's
Yeah,
all gone at this point. He's gonna do this. It's all gone. It's not nature. It was all nurture. It's all about the U.S. That was what I read from that scene. So
yes, and that's yeah, we're pretty much. But I like that because again, I love seeing Wonder Woman in anything whenever she gets to go. And
yeah,
this was like because so far we have not seen anybody who can hang with him. Like they have made it very clear that Superman is like the number one. Nobody can fool with him on any physical level. And Wonder Woman, it looks like, is the one who can.
yeah,
Because the way she caught that punch, I was like, ooh,
yeah.
she's too much.
Wasn't any struggle. It was like, yeah, what you think you about to do with that?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
stop. Just stop. And so, yeah, she's like, cool, fine. We wash our hands of
Mm-hmm.
man's world. We will stay hidden. You will never see me again. Go fuck yourself.
You would never see this pussy.
Never,
Yeah.
ever.
None of it. Yeah.
Yeah, ever.
Matter of fact,
So,
no man will. Yeah.
yeah, no man will ever. Yeah, we
Yeah.
are completely done. Now, in the comic book, I think that Lois goes to Themyscira to try to basically recruit the Amazons in favor of the US. And so I think that I remember the Green Lanterns attacking, and that doesn't go well. And so the Amazons attack in a scene, and he wipes the floor with them too. And so they kind of pulled that part out of this movie. But I feel like I remember that happening in the comics. And I also feel like I remember some random Superman villains showing, like, Doomsday. And like, I
Mm.
feel like I remember seeing some Superman villains too. And I assume that they were just like in this movie, Lex created Bizarro. I think that it was a similar, like, Lex created the villains that tried to fight Superman and couldn't get it done.
Right.
And so, um, now that, Superman's all pissed that Wonder Woman left, he's able to just handle the Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
Like they're just not an issue anymore.
Well, now the Green Lanterns are distracted. Their willpower is gone. He's like, it was like bitches, right? I mean, he's
Yeah, basically, it's exactly what he said. He was like, "God damn women,"
yeah, like yeah,
and yeah, so yeah, he just beats them up real quick, pretty effortlessly. And I will again, I like that there were other Green Lanterns there because Guy Gardner was there.
yeah,
Um, I assume Kyle Rayner was probably there.
yeah. I was trying to identify it. I was like, I can't. Yeah, I'd have to sit down and yeah, it's gonna take too much effort. But yeah.
Yeah, because they named John, obviously, and then they named Guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Kyle was there, and then Jessica probably wasn't because the time period wouldn't have
Yeah,
allowed for that.
I don't remember seeing any women. Yeah,
Even
but
though a lot of black people in this movie for the time period.
yeah. Which I was like, okay. They even made mention of there was a scene early in the movie where they mentioned, the U.S. being built on the backs of slaves, and I was like,
Yeah, Superman said it. Superman was like,
yeah.
yeah, like slaves and immigrants built this.
I was like,
And
okay,
I was like, of course Superman's the one saying it.
yeah.
But okay.
But
Uh,
I think there was an opportunity there that they didn't miss. The opportunity for Superman to say that from that perspective, because you never hear Superman say that any other uh story because he is from the U.S. and so
Yeah,
maybe that's
he's
something he's thinking but never gets to say. So this was the opportunity for him to say what he should have been saying a long time ago. So
because you know, US criticism isn't allowed
mhm.
in, you
Well,
know, under normal
that's the thing.
circumstances.
Superman is the super. He's the super patriot as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I was waiting for uh, the family crest, the S on the chest that we're used to seeing. But instead he's got the sickle and hammer, right?
Hmm.
But I thought it was very appropriate when Superior Man shows up. He has US on there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, okay. So I mean, it's just kind of paying homage to I think the origins of Superman and like I said, it's very US based and very patriotic. I already use patriotic, but I don't know what else a way to say it. But yeah,
No, that's what it is. Like truth, justice, and the American way.
American way. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's his whole thing.
Hmm.
And so Superman is like, you know what? I think Brainiac, you might have been onto something. So
Yeah. Let's go
I
deal with
think
these fools.
I think it's time to pull up on him.
Hmm.
And so they pull up to the White House, and there's like, oh, there's nothing here. Like it's like they weren't even expecting me
Where's
or
your
afraid of me. Yeah, like what are we doing? And so it's just Lois. And Lois is like, I have something for you. I found this Stalingrad. I found this city that got shrank, and you have done nothing to bring it back. What's the deal there? What's going on? And Superman is like, I've been trying for years to bring it
what are you
back.
talking about?
Like,
That's all I do.
yeah, like I've been that's been my passion project is to restore this city. And she's like, well, the technology's always been there. Ask Brainiac. And he's like, no, it was, destroyed or it's not available. And Brainiac's like, no, no, I've
Yeah,
always had it.
yeah. You didn't ask.
You just never asked me about it. I would have, yeah, like I've always been able to do that, but just never asked.
Yeah, you've been trying to do it yourself. You never say, hey man, can you reverse this?
And I'm at your beck and call. Like you could have ordered it at any time. Like you're in charge.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, so they're trying to, I guess, point out Superman's I guess complicity through inaction.
Hmm.
They are trying to, at least I took it as trying to drive home the point of doing nothing is just as bad as doing the thing.
Right.
And so like, oh, okay. Um, because Superman, because he is still Superman, like he can't just be doing a bunch of evil shit, but to do nothing about evil shit being done is, arguably the same thing depending on who you ask. And so, I think that it felt to me like that's the point they were trying to make, but not sure. Anyway, he's like, oh, okay, I'm a terrible person. So I through this, I have realized that I am not a human and humans need to make their own decisions. I need to embrace actual freedom
Yeah. I
and
give up.
not this version of freedom that I have been trying
Yeah.
to push onto the people. And Brainiac is like, what? Nah,
No, that's unacceptable.
that's not gonna work for me. And he's
Uh,
like, he tries to be nice. You should reconsider.
yeah. Uh,
But
yeah.
we're not doing that. And so Superman is like, oh, I never reprogrammed you, did I? Brainiac was like, hell no, you didn't
No,
reprogram me. You got me
no,
confused with some
sucker.
goddamn body. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, what you think this is? Like,
Matter of fact, let me just blow up that city.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, your passion project? Pass it over.
yeah, done.
Yeah, done.
That was so unnecessary. But I mean, he's evil. And so, Yeah, Brainiac is like, yeah, I've been
Yeah,
playing
man.
you this whole time.
Yeah, I was
And
like, yeah, this is we've been getting what I wanted the whole time.
yeah,
Yeah, what are you
like
talking about?
yeah, like we took over the world through control. Like
This is my agenda. You thought you gotten rid of you cut your strings with Stalin? No, you're still my puppet.
yeah. And yeah, and he was like, and P.S. My shields are so much stronger than last time. And on top of that, last time I let you win
Let you.
because this was my plan all along. Like I was playing the long game because I'm a robot and I can do that.
Time doesn't matter to me.
I don't give a fuck how long it takes. And this was much easier than being hostile about it.
Yeah.
So, there's some, stuff going on, and luckily for Lois, Lex shows up to save her because she was about to get crushed by that pillar. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, Superman and Lex team up. They do the old, mutual uh plan
The
here. The
enemy
old,
of my
yeah,
enemy is my friend, whatever. Yeah. So
yeah, that whole thing. And so, we get to see a World War II situation where it's like, oh, we know who the evil one is.
mhm.
Because both of us were really just trying to do what we thought was best for our
For
people.
our
But
countries, yeah, for our
yeah,
people.
be
Yeah.
like, now we have a true enemy.
Yeah.
And so we must work together to destroy that. And so, you know, they do. Lex is able to open a hole, and then Superman's able to get in there and put his hands on Brainiac. And then Brainiac is like, that gotcha. Self-destruct. Because if I can't have
Yes.
it, no one
Nobody.
can.
As a matter of fact, I'm taking the planet with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm taking all of it. Like this explosion will make it to the sun. So yeah, like this entire
Yeah. I'm
system,
taking the solar system with me.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of it. And Lex is like, Superman, I don't think you are fast enough to get this thing out of here. Like it I think we're done here.
Yeah.
And Superman's basically like, you need to believe in me.
Bet.
Yeah.
Like I yeah.
Put your faith in me. And so Superman, flies that thing uh out of here and it explodes. Luckily, Superman just saved the world. And then Lex is like, yeah, I don't want to be president anymore. I'm gonna have to step down. I need to spend time with my wife.
Yeah, Lex is not the power hungry. He's achieved everything he wanted to achieve. It's like, these aren't the important things. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm
the
gonna
world is good. I don't need to be in power. Spend some time with Lois.
yeah, just enjoying my old age. I'm gonna pass it over to our first black president.
And I think, and at the same time, first black president, James Olsen. Yeah.
Yeah. So not only did I bring us out of, economic and social depression and back into a place of prosperity, proving that America is number one and capitalism is the way, but I also gave you your first black president. And now
Hmm.
I'm going to go, walk into the sunset with my lovely bride.
Yeah.
And so, Superman is in the crowd, just kind of, in disguise.
Clark
Nobody,
Kent
yeah,
got his
nobody,
glasses on now.
yeah, he's got a glass, so nobody notices this big ass, uh, mysterious man
Yeah.
in the trench coat, except for Lois.
He
Um,
sees him in a crowd of what I can only suspect was thousands, but yeah.
yep, and then yeah, disappeared just as soon. So, yeah, and so that's the film. So, um, it was very clear to me that this film was like more than anything, America.
Yeah.
Like they in this movie, again, normally we see Lex being a piece of shit in some way, but in the name of America, Lex wasn't a piece of shit.
So, and that's the thing, I talked about that when we first started. I fully expected this to be a nurture versus nature argument, right?
Mhm.
And the idea that it's about the nurture the U.S. versus Russia. But also, I was surprised. What I was surprised by was the argument, which is still nature versus nurture about women, right? And it's
Mhm.
almost like, are you saying that Lois Lane is actually the key to who's good or bad? Because Lois Lane was Superman, he's the greatest superhero ever. Without him, he's mid, right?
Yep.
Lois Lane with Lex Luthor, who was the greatest supervillain ever. Without him, he's the greatest supervillain. With him, he's a pretty, I'll say stand-up guy, but a redeemable guy, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
not terrible.
not terrible. The most terrible villain we can name is certainly, well, not the most terrible, but close. Is certainly not terrible. He's when it's all said and done, a good guy, right?
Yeah, like who's a piece of shit in this movie is Batman.
Yeah, Batman, who, yeah, no woman in his life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and in Russia, he is a terrorist.
a
Yeah,
terrorist. Yeah, he's an anarchist. Yeah, a terrorist. That's exactly.
terrorist.
Yeah, like
He's
there's
a
no
terrorist.
up
There's
and
no other
down.
way in. Yeah,
He's a
he's a terrorist.
terrorist.
He's blowing up museums full of women and children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and for no reason, just because.
yeah. His own people, like in
And
protests,
and because he was mad that Superman didn't come get him.
didn't rescue him. Even not that he didn't rescue him, that he didn't rescue him promptly.
Yeah. And that's not the first time we've seen a situation like that because we see that's how Cyborg Superman happens. Hank Henshaw was, out in space doing stuff and there were some issues and he's like Superman will save us and Superman didn't.
Yeah,
And so Hank Henshaw was like, "Oh, I hate him now
yeah.
and I
I'm
will
mad because we
destroy his
didn't know. Yeah,
like I will destroy him because he did not save us." And so, yeah, like Batman was like, yeah, you can hear flies shitting, but you can't hear my cries.
yeah,
Any of our cries, anybody here. It is your fault that I don't have parents.
yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't blame the establishment. He doesn't blame
He
like
didn't blame
Russia or
Stalin.
Stalin. Yeah, like no, it's Superman's fault.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I that's actually a really good point. I didn't see that, but that's yeah. It could be because there is, the rhetoric that a good woman will make a good man better.
there were, it was definitely. I mean, like I fully expected the U.S. versus Russia. I did not expect this referendum on men, in that um, it takes a good woman. I
Yep.
mean, the hubris with all the men, Superman, Lex Luthor, everybody's, even Hal Jordan, Brainiac, they're all overly confident. And the women are more like, you know, don't be so arrogant. There's a better way. It's the women throughout the story. Even Lana, who, like I said, we talk about the irony, Svetlana, excuse me,
Yeah.
Svetlana, the irony. But she was the one who said, don't don't get back at them. You need to tell the government. She believes in the government. All the women are these great characters. And I'm not saying the women are, what I'm saying? Like, the heroes in the story are women.
Yes.
Lois, yeah. Lois is who basically keeps Lex Luthor
Lex.
being the devil.
That is absolutely true. Like she keeps him grounded, and yeah,
Wonder Woman continuously tries to course correct Superman, even though he's off track because he's grown up in this communist state, right? With Stalin as a father versus Jonathan Kent, so
mhm.
completely different set of morals and ideas. Um, it's the women who are basically keeping this thing together the whole time. I didn't
Yep.
expect that this story. I'm good with it. I just wasn't what I expected to come out of this story, which is, and I think because it's so easy to just do the U.S. versus Russia. It's what everybody expects. I think everybody walking in the movie probably expected that. So
Oh yeah. And
yeah,
again, because I saw like that on full display, but yeah, like the power of a good woman, I think didn't occur to me when I watched it. Because I was just looking at it as, oh, because Superman is Russian in this movie, he can't be all good. And to the point where, because Lex is the one representing America, he's actually a good guy in this. Like,
Yeah.
normally, whenever we see Lex do good things, there's some like dastardly, shadiness behind it. Like there's some ulterior motive, something to that effect. But in this, like Lex just actually made the US better. He was good to his wife for the most part.
Yeah,
Uh,
he forgot some things. He was still
like he
a
wasn't
very
perfect.
he was a work first guy.
Yeah, but like he ended the movie by saying, "I have done everything I need to do. I'm going to go
Yeah.
spend the rest of my life with my wife," which is very unlex.
Yeah, I've made it. I've had an epiphany. I've done all these things I wanted to accomplish, and it's not the real joy. The real joy is this woman in my life who that I've been so fortunate to have by my side, despite um, some of the things that I've done wrong. So
And I don't I don't know if it was this comic book, but I remember a comic book in an Elseworld situation where Lex and Lois, they have kids and their kids are geniuses, and then, their kids contribute to Earth becoming the most technologically advanced world. And then eventually, um, the descendants of Lex and Lois, Jor-El, has a baby, and the planet is about to be destroyed. And so he has to put that baby in a ship and send that baby off. And so it like makes an actual full
mm,
circle.
yeah,
Again, I don't know if that was this story. Um,
yeah,
but I remember that being a story or in a story that I read. And I want to say it was Red Sun, but I
yeah,
I can't I can't put money on that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm like, okay, so I think you're right. I think that this does have a lot of a lot of the obvious, very clear, blatant, US versus Russia,
Yeah.
and how, propaganda, US is number one. And under no circumstance will the US lose. Like, even if Russia has Superman, the US still comes out on top.
Still, the U.S. still is superior. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's our way of life. It's still a lot of propaganda, still,
Yes.
which
Like
we
we
fully expect. Yeah,
because yeah, at the end of the day, capitalism is
yeah.
victorious. Like that's
Democracy. Yeah, they mentioned now Russia's free and will able to be a democratic country. It's like Superman. Superman takes over Stalin, but it's still authoritarian, right?
yes.
Dictatorship. It's still not a democracy, and the goal is still democracy. That's still what is good and what's just, and that is what the U.S. is about.
Yes, and that is why, yeah, like at the end of the day, uh, Russian Superman gives up, and the U.S. is still victorious.
Yeah,
And even though Lex is generally an evil guy, because he's the one representing the U.S.,
yeah.
he is the hero of the story.
Even with the might of Superman, Russia still cannot prevail.
Yeah, and so that was the heavy-handed message here. But
Mhm.
I think that yeah, the love of a good woman
I mean, which
is
says a lot. It's like so if you think about all the adventures, all uh, the upheaval and fights that between Lex Luthor and Superman, if Lex would have just had a good woman, all that shit would have been squashed.
yep. And unfortunately, he went for the wrong one, because there are a lot of times where we see Lex try to go after Lois whenever Superman is either gone or, not around in some form. And yeah, Lois just isn't interested because Lex is a piece of shit.
Yeah. But
But
without a Clark Kent around, and Lex, got his they would put that thing on him because she there's two scenes. There's like the first scene we see Lex, she sits on his lap and makes reference to his something rising or something like, oh, okay, so that's where we're going in this
yeah.
one. Yeah. And then later on they're in the bed and you
And then yeah,
know,
like whenever somebody's like, "Why are you with him?"
why
Three
we
reasons.
yeah. The D. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
Interesting.
yeah, but
I have a question for you though. All right,
okay.
so this is me taking my alternative take on it though, right? Or so it's like, okay, yes, you're saying that we talk about we're proving that the Russia can't win even with the might of Superman. Um, we talked about how things would have worked out differently with Lois and Lex's life. But when I look at this, the end of this movie, right? When it's all said and done, um, everybody's on top, right?
Hmm.
The world is a better world. So are we actually saying the world would be a better world if Superman was not American?
Uh, Perhaps. Um, and that is often Lex's point. Like that's the very point Lex is trying to make,
Yeah, yeah,
usually.
yeah.
Is like if we don't need him. And if we don't have him, we're better off.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah. I
so
mean,
yeah, Lex's point got proven in this movie.
mhm.
Or in this, under these set of
Yeah.
circumstances in this
America
world.
was able to thrive despite them having a Superman and be better off once he's gone. Like we said, it's his point.
And I think that this movie also points to what can happen when you ignore the evils of your government. Because we often don't see Superman addressing U.S. atrocities for obvious
Uh-huh.
reasons.
Yeah,
Whenever Superman addresses the atrocities that took place in Russia, everybody ends up in a better situation.
yeah. I mean, Superman, like I said, we don't question his patriotism, but we should. I mean, a true patriot questions his government, right?
Yeah. That's why a lot of people love Captain America because Captain America is a patriot, but Captain America also makes it very clear that based on what the government has done,
Yeah,
he doesn't really trust them.
yeah. Your patriotism can be blind, you know.
Yeah. And that's often what we see from Superman is because I mean even in if we look at the Dark Knight Returns, that is the one where, basically superheroes are told, hey, you need to cut the superhero work out, and Batman, gets back in the game. And so Reagan tells Superman, hey, go get your boy. And Superman says to Batman, you need to stop before somebody with authority tells me to come get you.
Yeah,
And it's like, but Superman, you understand what Batman's doing. You don't disagree with it. You see a place for it, but the whole following orders, uh, X-Men touches on that because Magneto's like, no, I've been at the mercy of men just following
yeah.
orders.
Blind nationalism. It's almost like, well, it's not almost. If I had to describe Superman, right, I'd say one of his, flaws. He's gullible.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and that's on
that
purpose. Like,
blind faith.
yeah,
Yeah.
like his goodness and his hope in humanity often does blind him in some
Well, I
capacity.
mean, but that like I said, that's part of the story. The him being born or not born, raised in Middle America in Kansas. This wholesome idea. Like okay, so let's take it a step further. We talk about Superman being born in Russia or being raised in Russia. I keep saying born,
Yeah.
raised in Russia. What if he was raised in the mean streets of Chicago?
Yeah.
How different would his outlook be versus Kansas? Not very far away, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Or I mean, even regardless of where he was, I mean,
Gotham City,
yeah,
see,
'cause that's pretty much
that's
that's pretty much Chicago.
yeah,
And,
it's
and
yeah,
so like,
Metropolis, yeah,
but even what if he had been raised in Kansas, but by nationalists
yeah,
and not by, some really, good old people? Like, what if it had been some, white supremacists who raised him?
yeah.
And that's where in Gods and Monsters, we see that that Superman is raised by a Mexican family. And the way that he handles things is pretty different, but also he's Zod's son, not Jor-El's son. So like there are some differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he speaks to his upbringing and being raised by immigrants and all of that in that movie. And so yeah, like it would be like it's a matter of circumstance, which I think again is why this movie discusses the concept of nurture versus nature.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the whole, yeah, like that's the whole point. But yeah, it also speaks to, blind nationalism and what that can result in. And honestly, yeah, I think there's some validity to your question of like if Superman wasn't born here, could or would things be better?
One
And
thing to
also,
learn.
it depends on the time period because this is Cold War time. And like very specifically, this is
Oh
Cold
yeah.
War time.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And
Yeah.
so, like, does the time period where this takes place, that also has an effect on how this ends up? Because if Superman, if all of this happened, later or earlier, then, who knows? Because Superman's born in, World War One time, World War Two may not happen.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of variables. But I
But
think this movie, yeah,
it's
it
thought
does a good
provoking.
job of exploring. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, you can definitely draw some conclusions, and I think different people viewing the movie can draw different conclusions even.
mhm.
But I think it's thought provoking. I mean, it's actually makes me hunger for more elseworlds. What ifs? I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, let's go ahead and do Black Superman. Let's have uh Jor landing the Sudan.
Yeah.
What's
Uh,
up?
because yeah, there's a lot of I mean, there are a lot of Elseworld stories, and yeah, like some of them are really good, and some of them are like, okay.
Yeah.
But I
Sorry,
mean,
I said Joe Callow. Sorry.
that's always gonna happen. There's no way around that. But okay. So, Jason, scale of 1 to 10. What do you think?
Uh, I enjoyed it, man. Actually, I'm gonna give it a high rating. I watched it a couple times. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. That's just high
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
I also give it an 8.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought it was very good. It did a lot of things well.
hmm
And from what I remember, there are some things that I like better in this than the comic book, but there are some things that I like better in the comic book than this.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's got flaws, but nothing overly egregious, right?
yeah,
I think the for a higher rating, uh, more exposition, you'd have to make the movie longer. It's an hour and a half.
yeah,
If you made this a 2 hour, 2.5 hour movie, there's a lot more you could have done with it. With some of the, I mean, still drawing the same conclusions, just more backstory. I think it would have been a better movie from that perspective. But yeah,
I
but
agree.
otherwise,
Like
yeah.
this is absolutely a movie that could have benefited from a longer runtime.
hmm
And that's one of the only issues with these animated movies is they usually have to keep a tight
hmm
75 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they could have absolutely benefited from like another 30 minutes would have
Another 30 minutes really could have made this a top notch uh, Superman animation movie. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, could have put it
And
up there.
because yeah, like I mean, even part one, part two
Yeah.
could have gotten us there.
Yeah.
Because I want to say that this comic book was broken into 3 parts,
hmm
but yeah,
Yeah. That's what happens when you try to condense things into, like you said, 75, 90 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
They did the
There's
best they
punches after
could.
that.
And so yeah, like there was some stuff that had to get left out.
Yeah.
But yeah, again,
There were some things I'm sure that are on the editing room floor. So
yeah. But um, all right. Anything else on the movie?
no, I enjoyed it. For your viewers, if you guys haven't seen it, I recommend you do.
Yes, strongly recommend it.
hmm
It's definitely a good one. All right. In the next episode, we will be discussing Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. So until then, salutations.